Is made, but the debate continues. The Supreme Court changes the law of the land on same-sex marriage. The people remain divided.
Thrilled with today.
Yeah, we're absolutely thrilled.
The marriage is should be a very sacred institution between a man and a woman.
Jan Crawford, Bill Whitaker, and Michelle Miller on what it means. He won government contracts claiming disability from a football injury. Explain that to a double amputee war hero.
My feet hurt too. In fact, the balls of my feet burn continuously, and I feel like there's a nail being hammered into my right heel right now.
Nancy Cordes has the story. And Chip Reed sets sail for Smith Island, land of American dreams, slowly slipping from view.
This is the CBS Evening News with Scott Pelley.
Good evening. Once in a while, a decision by the Supreme Court is etched into the granite of our history. Americans remain divided over today's rulings, but history was written. Copies of the same-sex marriage decisions rushed out this morning, and as the words were read, cheers went up. A sharply divided court advanced the cause of gay rights in two cases. It struck down the 1996 Defense of Marriage Act, known as DOMA, which denies federal benefits to same-sex couples. In the other case, it authorized the resumption of same-sex marriage in the nation's most populous state, California. Jan Crawford begins our coverage at the Supreme Court.
Writing for the 5-4 majority, Justice Anthony Kennedy said the 1996 Defense of Marriage Act that denied federal benefits to legally married same-sex couples had one purpose and one effect: to impose a disadvantage, a separate status, and so a stigma upon all who enter into same-sex marriages made lawful by the unquestioned authority of the states. It tells those couples and all the world that their otherwise valid marriages are unworthy of federal recognition. That distinction, the court said, violates constitutional guarantees of liberty, equality, and equal dignity. The ruling has immediate and wide-ranging practical consequences because, as the court put it, the law had written inequality into the entire United States Code. More than 1,000 federal statutes and regulations are affected, not only federal tax laws, but other laws regulating bankruptcy, housing, and Social Security, even veterans' benefits. Same-sex married couples will now get the same benefits and protections as heterosexual couples. The landmark case was brought by 83-year-old Edie Windsor, who challenged the law after her partner of 40 years died and Windsor was hit with $363,000 in federal estate taxes, taxes she would not have owed if her spouse were a man.
Children born today will grow up in a world without DOMA. And those same children who happen to be gay will be free to love and get married, as Thea and I did, but with the same federal benefits, protections, and dignity as everyone else.
In dissent, Chief Justice John Roberts emphasized that today's ruling does not mean state laws banning same-sex marriage are unconstitutional. But in a separate dissent, Justice Antonin Scalia said the majority clearly was signaling it will reach that point someday. It is just a matter of listening and waiting for the other shoe. The second same-sex marriage case focused on California's Proposition 8, which banned same-sex marriage in 2008 after the state's Supreme Court had legalized it. Supporters of same-sex marriage argued Proposition 8's ban was unconstitutional, and federal courts in California agreed. Supporters of the ban went to the Supreme Court, raising monumental constitutional issues that went to the heart of state laws banning same-sex marriage. But today, the justices declined to decide those constitutional issues. Instead, the court said it lacked the jurisdiction to decide the case, a technical ruling that sent the issue back to California. It means the lower federal court ruling striking down Proposition 8 as unconstitutional will remain in place.
Now, as a result, in the near future, same-sex marriage in California could resume. But this decision, unlike that first landmark ruling, will have no impact nationwide, Scott, because the justices did not decide those bigger issues.
And Jan, President Obama on a trip to Africa today, when all Americans are treated as equal, we are all more free. Thanks, Jan. It was only 10 years ago that homosexual sex was a crime in some states. The Supreme Court changed that in 2003. Same-sex marriage is legal in 13 states, if you now include California, plus the District of Columbia. Here's Bill Whitaker.
The reaction in West Hollywood was jubilant. But in the home of Steve Soucy and Tom Bechtold, the reaction was personal.
So that's it. I think we're recognized. I think we're married in California.
The impact profound.
That's awesome.
We're talking about equal rights. We're talking about equality. What's that feel like?
It just feels fair. I mean, it feels correct. It feels right. It just feels excellent.
Yeah.
They celebrated at weddings for friends and relatives when California's Supreme Court declared same-sex marriage a constitutional right in 2008. But plans for their own wedding were interrupted when California voters passed Proposition 8, banning same-sex marriage.
We didn't think the right to marriage was going to be taken away in our home state.
We were really shocked by that.
As soon as same-sex marriage became legal in New York, they flew there to get married.
Our marriage was not recognized here in California. So today's ruling really, gives us what we wanted, which was to be recognized in our home state.
Are you planning now to have a second service here in California?
Yes, definitely.
Now they get to file taxes jointly and have visitation rights at hospitals.
Today is a great victory for us on a federal level, on a state level, but for our brothers and sisters in 37 other states that are still waiting for equality, we have some work to do.
Scott, they say their love and their lives now are equal to everyone else's. California Governor Jerry Brown has told state officials to get ready to see issuing marriage licenses to same-sex couples once again.
Bill Whitaker in our Los Angeles newsroom. Thanks, Bill. Views on same-sex marriage have been changing. Last year, a CBS News New York Times poll found 42% of Americans felt same-sex marriage should be legal. More than half said no. But now, 51% support it and 44% are still opposed. What do those opposed think about today's rulings? We asked Michelle Miller to find out.
That's what's happening. Changing the definition and the institution of marriage, which I think is the wrong thing for Western civilization.
We sat down with Michael Long in his favorite Brooklyn pizzeria. He helped lead opposition to New York's same-sex marriage law in 2011. The father of 9 has been married to his wife for 50 years.
Do you see this as the social issue of our day?
Some people like to try to game it and call it part of the civil rights movement. This is about an institution. This is about what marriage really stands for. This is about raising a family.
Although a slim majority of Americans say same-sex marriage should be legal, 60% of those we polled with the New York Times said state government should make that decision. The point was echoed today by Republicans and conservatives on Capitol Hill. Missouri Congresswoman Vicki Hartzler.
This is a dangerous precedent which strips power away from Congress with respect to defining national marriage policy.
Michael Long worries the result will be same-sex couples shopping for benefits across state lines.
Therefore, if you live in New York, because of what the legislature did last year in approving what I call the destruction of traditional marriage, you're going to be able to get federal benefits if you are a same-sex couple. If you live in Jersey, you're not going to be able to get federal benefits. We haven't said anything. We have created more confusion.
And Scott, there are the moral objections. The U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops called this a tragic day for marriage. And Southern Baptist leader Albert Mohler said today's decisions will create serious religious liberty challenges.